And good morning from God's frozen chosen. A little chilly here in Tennessee. Folks, welcome to our Valentine's Day special. Excited to have our guests, Gary and Kim Elliot, here with us. Our older, well, I shouldn't say older, um, our old sanctuary friends. There we go. The Mancarusos are here. And so good to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's awesome to have you here. So I want to make sure that you know that we'd love to know that you're here. So would you just sign in? Let me know where you're watching from, and love to see that you're here. So I'm going to try to get this a little more centered. There we go. Now we're just right. Has to be just right. You know what I'm saying? Has to be just right. So thank you once again for joining. And folks, once again, sign in. Let me know where you're watching from. I would love to be able to say hello to you, and love to be able to see you on the screen. There you are. Good evening, he says from the Philippines. Gerald, good to see you here today. Great to have you join us. Folks, again, sign in wherever you're watching from, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or any of the many places, any of the social media spots that we're at. Tina is here. Good morning from Park Ridge in Illinois. A little chilly there too. We're having some cold weather across the United States. We have snow coming up here in just a couple days again, and we thought we were over all of that, and I guess it's going to be snowy again. So, good morning from San Diego, California. Sean, good to see you this morning. All of our great friends from California, across the United States, across the world. Emma, Montana. Good morning from frigid Montana. Yes, it's very cold there. Emma's a good friend for a lot of years. Her sons have a band called Mangled Carpenter. You probably know the band, and appreciate Emma and her family, and great to have you here today too, Emma. And she's from my home state of Montana. Yes, Forrest Ray is here from Lansing, Michigan, and he says, good morning from my not so secret base in Lansing, Michigan. That's awesome. Not so secret, yes. Joshua Garrett is here. Good morning to you, Joshua. Great to have you here. Folks, let me know where you're watching from. It's always interesting to see that. And Joshua, of course, is from the Chicagoland suburbs, which is cool. Last week, I had Rex Carroll briefly on the show. He was visiting for a couple days, and we started out with him, and he took my Swedish guests, Peter and Eleanor, back with him, and they're right outside of Chicagoland as well. And it's a little chilly there, little chilly. So, I was thinking this morning that it's kind of cold here, and in just a few months, we're going to say, "Wow, I wish it was winter," when it gets really hot. So, we're never satisfied. We are never satisfied. Forrest Ray says, "Good morning." Yeah, we saw Forrest Ray, and he's back again, Lansing, Michigan. And Joshua said, "It's snowing in America." Yes, it is. And we're about to get some more too. Big snowstorm about to go through a whole lot of the United States, and not about to go through, is going through with a whole lot of folks. So about to go through here. Well, folks, again, thank you for joining me, wherever you're watching from, and whatever social media platform you're watching from. Great to have you here. Wanted to remind you of a couple things. And Rodney is here, good friend Rodney in Queensland, Australia. Great to have you here as always, Rodney. Our good friends from down under. And Rodney, I always appreciate you staying up. It's after midnight there, and I appreciate the fact that you're joining us. if you haven't seen our shirt and our logo for the year, it's this one. If I can get it all on screen, open the eyes of my heart. And isn't that a great one? And it's, of course, a shirt, it's a mug, it's a poster, it's all of those things. These are awesome. And can I remind you, folks, that if you don't have a reading program and you'd like to just do a quick devotional every day, I have 2 books out that I'd like to suggest. My Metal Devo, this one, Metal Devo is basically 365 days devotional and something for you to read every single day. And it's got a quote from someone in the heavy metal community, lots of bands, lots of people, and plus my commentary is scripture for the day, and then some things to think about for the day. And this is from my book called Letters to Myself at 21, seriously. And this is the devotional journal edition. And you can use it for a daily thing too. And both of those are available right here. wearemetalwearefamily.com or sanctuaryinternational.com/merch, either place. You can go right to that and get all of our swag. And speaking of swag, of course, I'm drinking Headbangers Brew today. And this is a good winter blend. It's our brewed awakening. And we need a brewed awakening when it gets cold outside. Still got these great mugs, by the way, too. And that is some good stuff. Well, a little later on in the show, I have Gary and Kim Elliot with me. We're going to talk about their newest book right here. And I'm excited to do a little Valentine's Day special. It's their love story. And you're going to be excited to hear what they have to say. And it's quite a story. We'll do that. And I have Glen and Cherie Van Buren Mancaruso on with me as well. In fact, John, there they are. I was just going to say, let's bring those 2 on. And voila, Viola, here they are.
Yeah, you should have seen the fiasco of us just trying to get
trying to get on.
Getting a link.
Well, I'm happy that you guys made it online. And good morning to you. So we're going to talk about a little bit about Valentine's Day and about love. And I thought, you know, as far as Sanctuary is concerned, you are probably one of the oldest married couples in Sanctuary. So,
Yep.
Yep.
yes, I'd love to talk about that and love to have a few memories of it. Do we have any pictures of your wedding, by the way?
We
John,
do.
John, if we could put 1 or 2 of those pictures up.
We look exactly the same.
We haven't changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
I know you can't tell the difference. There's before and after.
Yep.
Hey, where did I get that red shirt at? Look at that.
Yeah,
thing.
I know. That's
Dang,
dude,
bright red.
Is that red?
I remember. Look at that.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, see, we haven't changed one bit.
Nope. Still look just like that.
And Glenn, I think your hair and my hair is actually longer than Cherie's hair.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Hippie.
How many years ago is this?
We've been married almost 37 years.
37 years in March.
March.
March 26th.
Amazing.
See, I didn't forget the date.
Gosh. Now, doesn't it seem like it was just yesterday? I mean, when you look at the pictures.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, wow, when did all that happen?
Yes.
All life, you know, it's like we just got married.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were one of the first weddings, and then you had the first Sanctuary baby. We've talked about that before too, Joey, who is also on our worship team here, along with Glenn, its father and son, on drums.
That's right.
And Joey, And his wife Crystal got married here in my yard not that long ago. They are.
There they
Yeah.
are.
Yes.
Oh,
And very cool to have second generation. Um, great wedding.
yeah,
Beautiful.
it was really good.
Yeah, that was
Really,
fun.
really good.
Even in the rain, it was
Even
fun.
in the rain.
Yes, as we fought off the rain, but it
Yeah.
cleared just long enough to have the
It
wedding.
did.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool. So when you remember back all of those years, and I think it's an interesting story, there are some things that I remember. You know, Cherie, you were the sanctuary secretary during that time.
I was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really great time.
It was
I mean,
fun. So
we had
much
so
fun.
much fun. Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And, and Glenn actually lived with me during those days as well.
Yes, he
So
did.
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
so
The
we were
sanctuary.
all very good friends. The relationship between the two of you was nothing to be hidden because we all saw you all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was good to watch you guys together. Tell me how the relationship started. What do you remember at the very beginning? Who pursued who, or was it a mutual thing?
Well, we were friends. I mean, we were both on the worship team.
Yeah,
So, I mean, we hung out a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
For the first 6 months, we were just friends.
yeah, we were just friends for about 6 months, and then, which doesn't seem long at all. Now I'm like, 6 months,
yeah,
that's nothing. But I don't know. One time, Glenn actually at a Bible study, Glenn said, "Oh, you look nice. Oh, we want to take you out." And I'm like, "I can take myself out." And I got out of the car. Like, I thought that was so slick.
really.
But and I remember, it's
The,
weird.
the
Like,
phone call. Remember you called me?
I did. I called him. I asked Glenn out.
So yeah, go ahead. You can.
I asked him out. I asked him if he wanted to go to Denny's and so I could get some free counseling. And then we just sat there and we talked and we talked and we talked, and
I'm like, what
that
is
was
it? What
it.
is it that you needed to talk to me
I
about?
don't know. Nothing.
And of course, that was the late night place to go, as
Oh,
It
Denny.
was.
Denny's, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we
Of course.
ended up owning half of the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So
That was the rock and roll Denny's in Torrance that everybody went to.
everybody went to Rock and Roll Denny's.
Yep.
Yep.
Rock and roll Denny's.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And
Actually, I
of course-
used to see Glenn there before I even met Glenn.
Really?
Yeah.
Many years before.
Before I was a Christian.
And when I was a punk rocker, well, I was always a punk rocker,
Yeah.
but I would walk in with Donna and we'd go, "Oh, great, Van Halen's here."
Because we would all it was
They
after.
would hog up the big table.
Yeah, it was like either after we had gone out or like after a gig or something like that, and we'd all congregate at the Denny's, and we'd all sit at the big table. So there was like probably 10 or 12 of us, just a bunch of rockers there, and they would come in and I thought, oh, look at, they're kind of punkish,
Yeah.
and I go, oh, they're kind of cool. Had no idea it was who it was.
He had no idea that we were going, look at
Yeah,
those
they were laughing.
geeks.
They were laughing at us.
Look at Van Halen. Ooh. Led Zeppelin's dead.
That's awesome. Well, Glenn, you were very much in the scene those days. You were friends with a whole lot of those very early heavy metal bands, weren't you?
Yeah, well, because a lot of them lived in the South Bay area,
Yeah.
like Don Dokken and a couple of the guys from Rat who I went to high school with, and then you had everybody hung up at the Rainbow in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So and then a couple of the guys I was in bands with went on to be after we had broken up, they went on to be in pretty big bands.
Yeah.
They were pretty popular. So like, Poison and the Bullet Boys and stuff like that. So but everybody was friends. Everybody just kind of hung out.
Everybody played in everybody's band.
Yeah, it was just a revolving door at that time because the music scene was pretty hot and bands were getting signed left and right after Quiet Riot came on the scene, and then you had Motley Crue and all those bands, and So yeah, it was moving pretty quickly. So everybody was looking. If you were in a band longer than like 4 months and nothing was happening, you moved
Move
on.
on. Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is moving too slow. That's because that's how fast it was moving.
Well, and the scene was, people viewed California during that time as this huge scene, but it was fairly small. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
metal community, everybody kind of knew each other. I
Yeah.
remember walking the streets in Hollywood, from the whiskey to Gazzarri's to all the bands, the Rainbow,
The Roxy and everything.
Roxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky, right? And just up and down the strip, and everybody's handing out brochures.
Flyers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Till like
just
3 o'clock in the morning.
We would get a stack of flyers.
Yeah.
fly- and but everybody friends, everybody talking to each other. The whole strip was full of metalheads communicating. It was a really great scene, and a lot smaller than the rest of the world perceived. I
Yeah.
think what was
I
actually.
think what it was is that because it was local, so it was just everybody was local, but so many of those bands that played on the strip made it big.
Yeah.
And so that made it so like the whole world knew them. So it seemed
Yes.
like it was this giant like community, and it wasn't, it was just, it was like your neighborhood, everybody in the neighborhood. So
Well, and it
Yeah. And that's what, and then, moving forward, that, when that kind of didn't die out, but, that's like when I started coming to church, like in 84, then 85, Sanctuary started and started coming
Yeah.
there. But yeah, it wasn't until 86 when I met Cherie.
yeah.
She came to the South Bay when we opened up South Bay
yeah, it
Sanctuary.
came like the second service of South Bay.
Yeah. So, and I thought she was pretty, I thought, she's pretty cool. I'd see her, she'd come to all the functions and I thought, oh, she's kind of cool. She was different because she wasn't really a rocker kind of girl. She was more of a punkish,
That was cool.
And then there was the hair.
Oh.
Yes. Now let's talk about that for a minute,
Yeah.
because I remember her hairstyle drastically changed by the week.
All the time.
Yep.
And you know what I'm about to say. I remember
Yes.
one time, Harry got this big mohawk, and you had leopard spots.
On this, I had it shaved on the sides. Yeah, way back when.
And you said, I know Glenn's going to hate this. And so when Glenn came home that evening,
I hid in your bathroom.
you hid in my bathroom and you didn't want Glenn to see you.
I remember you came and you're like, okay, you have to come out. I'm like, no, I'm not coming out. I'm not. Where's the window?
And
I don't know what.
Glenn, but it looks really cool. And it did. It was great. It was
It was cool.
my
I
favorite
changed
hairstyle
it
on.
right away.
I wasn't used to that, the changing all the time.
He was used to girls with long hair and high heels. Not socks and short hair.
I was no, I think it's the whole change thing, That's that was Cherie will tell you I'm a creature of habit,
Yeah.
So moving to Tennessee was a big change, right?
Yes.
He's still acclimating.
Still getting used to that.
Yeah.
Well, you met each other. You decided you liked each other a lot. You decided to get married.
Yep.
Your wedding was awesome.
It was very cool.
I don't know if we have a full wedding photo there or not, but
You know what? We never got one.
Oh,
We never got one. Our photographer for our wedding, we found out he subcontracted somebody else, and the guy that did our wedding was a crime scene photographer. Those are the best we have. So I'm like, maybe I told Glenn, I said, maybe we should have laid down on the floor and like chalk outlined us.
yes.
Have him take pictures of that. So we don't have a full length one except for what our family and friends took. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, those are great pictures, though.
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah, there was a lot of hair, more on the guy's side than there was on the female side.
I know. Well, my friends were all short hair.
So, yeah.
Except for my brother. My brother had really short hair.
Yeah, he was the only one.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good wedding. It was a fun wedding.
It was fun.
It was,
37 years ago.
I know.
Yeah.
Not crazy.
Well, and when people say, what is your secret to longevity? I remember in one of our first classes where we had a lot of people that were getting hitched, and
Mm-hmm.
I was actually teaching a premarital class. And you know what I'm going to say. Cherie said,
I do.
Glenn and I never fight.
We never fight. We just get along so great.
And I remember other people in the class, and especially those that were married, said, "Oh, you will."
Yeah.
Just wait.
Just wait.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that you have a few times since then.
Nope.
Never.
Yeah.
Nope, not once.
Perfect every day.
Especially this morning. It was perfect.
I know.
Well,
so
open
you-
the button. Hit the button.
She's like, "Do I look okay?" I'm like, and I completely forgot
He goes, "Well,
I forgot we were doing this. I thought,
I go,
is she got a doctor's appointment or something she's got to go to this morning? I completely forgot.
because I didn't come down looking like a scrub.
Well, so wedding, your marriage has been, it's been wedded bliss and wedded blisters and
Blisters.
Oh yeah, it's definitely had its share of blisters.
both sides. What do you feel like the thing has been that's kept you together all these years? Because like any married couple, there are times when you feel like I really want to get out of this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody goes through that to some degree.
yeah. First and foremost, is faith in Christ.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
because
definitely.
without that, I mean, it would have been easy, and I can see how some couples just give up and just say, "Nah, I'll move on to something different."
Yes.
So they change. They change partners like disposable Bic lighters. So.
That's going back.
True.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm dating myself once again.
Yeah.
I
No,
think-
you have to be able to make a decision. You make a decision. Are we going to stay with this or are we going to let it go?
Right.
and
And you go through some hard things, it's
and
so.
if you're just going on your feelings, you're going to get in trouble sometimes.
Oh yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not going to work.
That'll mislead you every single time. I mean, but look, I mean, why wouldn't you want to stay with this?
Yeah, I know exactly. Just thinking.
You just see him.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to hit me. No.
I know.
No.
I'm afraid.
So there are a few times that must have stretched you, and Glenn, I imagine one of them was when we put Vengeance together. That was extremely controversial. You guys took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did that affect your relationship? Jerry, I can't remember, but were you excited about that decision or not? I can't remember.
I liked it. I mean, it wasn't actually, I like Vengeance. I like, Burn Satan Burn. My favorite. It's got a good groove.
Yeah.
The ministry was great. It was really good. And it was good to go to their shows and see that. You could see the kids were just like, oh my gosh, we love this, and while it wasn't my favorite style of music, I mean, I do like it. Because it was Glenn. If it had been anybody else, I probably would have been like, yeah, no, that's not my thing. But the ministry was great. And it's funny because Joey kind of grew up on that, he grew up on all that. And so, in fact, I was pregnant when Vengeance first started,
No.
Yeah, because
Well,
I would go to rehearsal pregnant, and I wasn't like a Yoko, but I would go to rehearsal because I just didn't have anything else to do, and I was pretty giant pregnant, and I would fall asleep during Vengeance practices.
Whoa, that's hard to do.
But Joey for instance, we took him to a vacation Bible study, and I went to go pick him up. And I walk up and all the kids are up on the stage singing in the microphone, Jesus loves me, and all these cute things. And Joey grabs the microphone and goes, Tiki Spader! And I was like, oh, gosh. Okay. So yeah, I mean I thought it was great. I think it's great. I think it's funny because we still get a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, you're the best drummer I've ever seen. We love Vengeance." And it's like,
doubt that.
and that's a lot of years ago, and people still like it.
It was hard. The touring was hard.
That was hard on us because I
especially on her.
just had Joey.
Yeah.
Joey was brand new, like 2 months old.
Yeah. So that leaving for 3-4 months, it was like, yeah, that was, and I would fly back and on little breaks and stuff. But still, because back then you got to remember there was no cell phones.
No.
So we would, and I was thinking about that. I remember we used to stop, like if we stopped at a coffee shop, we get on the payphone.
Yeah.
And we call. and that was it. That was your form of communication. There was no.
We didn't know. I mean,
no internet, no nothing. So.
Didn't have any way to know if his plane got there okay. Didn't know if he got there okay. Didn't know where they were. Kind of had a vague.
Other day.
I think I remember we would like check in twice a day.
Yeah.
Like
in the morning and at night.
Yeah, but via payphone.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, Joey it was my first Mother's Day too. They were gone on my first Mother's Day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
rough.
Those are things that she never forgets. I
won't ever forget it. No, it was my parents were really, really good.
Yeah.
To us, they still are. I mean,
speaking of Valentine's Day, she was in labor.
I was
when our first
yes.
So not our first Valentine's Day.
No, not our first, but our second one.
Yeah.
Right?
So I second one married, but I every time it's Valentine's Day, I reach over and punch him in the gut. Just
well, Sanctuary is 40 years old this year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Hard to believe. And for our 40th anniversary, we're at Immortal Fest, and Sunday at Immortal Fest, which is the end of July, we're having our 40th anniversary celebration. Of course, Glenn, you'll be playing in the worship team, and Cherie, you'll be singing. But then Vengeance is making an appearance and playing for the 40th anniversary too, which I'm so excited for.
Yeah,
Glenn, it's been a few years.
Yeah, I got some woodshedding to do. I got 5 months to to get it together, and then and then I had heart issues in October, and I'm going through getting back on track with that, and
cardiac rehab.
Yeah, cardiac rehab.
All the stuff you don't think about when you first get married.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't think about illness. You don't think about any of that stuff at all.
Yeah.
You don't think about getting old together so much.
No. And then you have all that stuff that you hospital stays or operations that on both sides that you have to go through, and and those are things that will definitely strengthen your
parents
relationship.
Getting older, that's hard. Losing parents, and
it's a big deal.
It is.
Yep.
Watching your kids get married. What?
But the one thing that has remained fairly consistent all of these years is, speaking of family, has been the Sanctuary family.
Oh yeah.
Great friends that we've been friends for 4 decades.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I love that though. I love the camaraderie.
I do too.
With that, it's been just awesome. Well, you guys, we have Gary and Kim coming up, and you know them well. They're part of our fellowship here.
Yep.
Authors with a story to tell. So, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
Rock stars on God, caught in the fire, searching for meaning in a world of desire. They sing of the heavens, they scream of the void. Rock stars on God, where do they belong?
He said we're out.
I think so.
Welcome back to the show. So I'm excited to welcome our special guests today. Gary and Kim Elliot are here with us, and we have a lot to talk about. Also, Glenn and Cherie are here. They've been joining us in the first half hour. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from, and good morning to you, Gary and Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so we have loved having you here at Sanctuary, and you have just fit right in really fast and become instant friends, and we love having you a part of this fellowship. But I think there's a lot of things about you that people aren't aware of that we want them to know. So we want to talk about those things today. And let me just say that this book, your newest book, is fantastic.
Thank you.
Violet in the Snow. And it's kind of your story about meeting each other and kind of your love story. It reads really well, very exciting. You don't leave anything to the imagination. You go into a lot of depth in the relationship. And Glenn and Cherie, we'll be waiting for your book out. So this isn't your first one. There we go. You have other books that you've written as well, and so let's jump in and let's talk about the books. Let's talk about your life, and let's talk about the beginnings of your relationship together. You guys have a great story, and I know you're used to telling it.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask you to jump in and tell us your story.
Well, I guess from the beginning, actually, Gary and I, long before we knew each other, we had committed to follow God into love and romance, the relationship that He had planned for us. And I personally had a experience of a sexual violation that had happened. I became pregnant and actually chose life. And then I chose to raise my daughter as a single parent. So it was at that point, for me, it was crucial that I steward my daughter's innocence well. And I did not have any interest on a revolving door of dudes coming in and out and trying them on to see who would fit. My mother had actually been praying for us that God would give me a husband. And He did speak to her as she was praying. And He said that there will be a man who hears my voice. So I not only had a commitment to trust God, but I also had a promise that He would fulfill that. And so that's how things got started for me. You might want to talk about your early experiences.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so at the very beginning, you weren't really looking for anyone, although your mom had suggested it, but you had decided that you could be single and be okay. Is that correct?
Yeah, but for like 3 weeks.
No, maybe not so much.
I know. He certainly did not clue me in that it would be a couple of decades. So, yeah. So I wasn't looking for just anybody. I was looking for the one.
Yes. And were you at that same place, Gary? Were you at a place where you felt like you needed a wife, or did you feel like you were comfortable where you were at? Tell us about that.
Well, my early days were full of dating. I dated a lot, and when I was probably in my early 20s, but just for a short season. The whole thing frustrated me because it never really got me what I wanted, what I needed. So bit by bit, I came to the realization that there's got to be more to this than just chase someone and it not work, and then try it again and then try it again. Eventually, God whispered to me and He says, "Why are you trying to find for yourself what I want to give you?"
Wow.
And I realized then, and that threw me into the scriptures, and I started to dig to find out, how do you actually do this? And so that the main thing that came away that I took from that was that love was always meant to be a gift. It was never meant to be something that I had to find myself. I had to search for, to struggle and have broken hearts and try it again, try it again, try it again. He said, I want to do this. Just like Adam, he did the same thing for Adam when he set the stage and he gave Adam a wife. He made someone that fit him specifically. That's the principle that follows through all the scriptures. When God does this, he says, I will bring someone to you that's fitting for you. So
Yes. Yeah. And, I think we live in a culture where we feel like we have to go out and find somebody. And the places that we look are sometimes the worst places to find the kind of quality person that God would like to give us. We go to the pubs and the bars and the singles, meetings and all those things. Not that there's anything wrong with singles meetings, but sometimes it's a meat market with kind of a spiritual stamp on it that is still a meat market.
Well, I mean, the same thing happens in church.
Yes.
It happens in the singles bars. I mean, it's the same heart, it's the same attitude, it's the same motive that they use. I'm scratching and clawing to find something that works for myself, and it's no different, really.
Absolutely. Which is why I've never had a singles group in church, any church that I've pastored. I just feel like, yeah, that's exactly what it ends up being. And but God has a lot to do with this. And let's move ahead a little bit. How did you know, moving forward, that you were attracted to each other? How did that next step happen?
Yeah, very interesting event had happened. I don't think my daughter had been married yet. That was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm well into waiting for God's choice for me, fully not expecting it would take this long. I mean, it's a very common request, right, to be married, and couldn't figure out, why is this taking so long? But God was faithful to assure me that the story he was writing for me was for other people also. So fast forward to coming to that place of rest and waiting for who God had for me. I had been involved in a church plant in downtown Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah.
And so I think it was probably about 6 months into that. And we actually met on Saturday nights because we knew that our friends were hungover on Sunday mornings. So,
Wow.
And so what eventually happened was Gary had a shift change in his job that moved him to our Saturday night services. I hadn't met him yet, but God had prompted me one Saturday night to go ahead, and I guess it was Sunday nights. I had that wrong, Sunday nights. But he wanted me to go out to dinner with everybody after the service. Generally, I didn't do that because I just didn't have the cash. So, but it was my birthday weekend, and I said, all right, if you want me to go, I'll go. And so after the service, my best friend, who was the pastor, asked me if I was going out with everybody. And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. Save me a seat. And he said, he goes, that's great. I'll be sitting with that motley crew in the back. There was a band standing at the back corner of our church, whom Gary was responsible for. And I learned later that Gary had actually set up a time to talk with Pastor Jeff about a project, a musical project that God had given him, and he was looking forward to our church partnering. So we actually were introduced that first night. You want to talk a little bit about what you were?
Let's do, please.
Yeah, put it on the table.
I'd written a book, had been speaking some, and teaching and encouraging people with what I had found. And in the late 80s, my favorite band was Queensryche.
Yes.
Put out a record, Operation Mindcrime, which is most people consider their pinnacle. It's a concept. It's a story that talks about a junkie. I won't go into the story, but it talks about a junkie. And the live show, the way it played out, it was movie clips that went along. And Jeff Tate, the singer, would interact with the pictures on the screen. And I walked away from that first show that I saw of that tour and just mesmerized at the art of how they put this thing together. It was not just a rock band, but it was an experience.
Yes.
One day I was at work, I was singing a Queensryche song to myself in a good mood. And as clear as can be, God said, I want you to write a redeeming love story in the way that Queensryche wrote their story. It's called Escaping Forevermore. And we put a band together, and there's some of the stills from the movie. We filmed a silent film with sound cards that told a story that interweaves with live music. So very unique. And we actually came to Nashville because he said, I want you to take this whole thing to Nashville. So we are looking to put a band together, or however this works out. We've looked at a lot of people in the past, and nothing has clicked yet, but we are still sitting on this. This is one of the reasons why we came to Sanctuary, because metal and what we do. So it's a modern day fairy tale. It's the music is probably a mixture of old school Queensryche, Rob Zombie, and The Cure. So that's pretty eclectic, but it works. So
when he was actually presenting this to my pastor, I was hearing him talk about the convictions that he had about God wanting to make the match. And I didn't hear a lot of people talk about this, didn't know a lot of people that committed to wait on the Lord. So my curiosity really sparked when I first met Gary about how he knew God the same way. And that's when I also learned that he had actually written a book that has principles. And the latest version is called God of the Romantic. And he laid out the principles on how you can trust God like this. So he gave a book to my pastor. The next week, I'm babysitting my pastor's kids, and he throws the book in my lap and he says, this sounds like somebody I know, which was me. So I started to read Gary's book, and it was like encountering a ghost. I'm like, this is exactly how I believe God wants to bring his kids together in love and marriage. And so at that point, I can't say that initially I was attracted to Gary. I was very interested in who Gary was and how he had come to the knowledge of God the same as I did. So that's how we initially met. But it would be probably 9 months of a friendship. I joined his project, started out as an administrator, ended up as a makeup artist for the project. And that really helped develop just a really solid, pure friendship between the two of us. But there was a moment that you'll learn and read in the book where God did bring Gary to my attention, that he had us in mind for one another.
Yes.
And so I initially said no, because I just didn't see he had the interest in me. But God asked me to look at him again about what I had come to know about him up to that point. Wow. So I didn't know everything, but I knew just enough that he was a quality man, a man of daring faith, who loved God, who was on a mission. He was checking so many boxes for me that I couldn't say no to God. And so then God just gave me instructions, let Gary take the lead and let him define the relationship. And it'd be a couple of years before Gary would hear from God himself on that. 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it started for me.
Yeah.
Want me to continue?
Well, and project is awesome. So your roots in heavy metal, and by the way, Jeff Tate's drummer has been involved with Sanctuary for a while, and he actually has played in our worship team a couple times. 2 years ago, he played in the worship team at Immortal Fest. And I'm hoping that whenever he's in town, he just moved to Nashville, so
cool
that he becomes part of things. He still plays with Jeff Tate, but great music. And Jeff was such an influence on so many people that when you ask what style of music you play, people would say, well, it sounds kind of like Queensryche. They were the standard.
Mm-hmm.
That voice, that, like you said, there was more than just music. It was a story. It was something deeper about it. How exciting to take that concept and to put it into a presentation, which is kind of what you have in mind for the future. No better place to find band members and people involved than here at Sanctuary, and I'm sure that the right people will fall in line. Jonas was just Jonas from Sanctuary in Kenya, Africa. There he is, was just sharing how he met his wife, and I remember those days. I think he was in Nashville visiting me right before he found his wife too, and
Wow.
ended up moving from Denmark to Kenya, and the rest is history. They've got a great family, and it's interesting how God brings people together. I want to talk a little bit more about this book because it is truly an amazing love story. So it wasn't just love at first sight. We got together, everything was fine, and we got married, and we've lived happily ever after. There's a little more involved here, and of course you've got more than one book. There's some others that you've written, all along the lines of relationships. What would you say sets your story apart from a lot of other stories? Because people say, well, I've read a lot of romance books, read a lot of love stories. Is this just another one of those, or what exactly is it that sets this one apart?
The thing that sticks out to me is that we understand that people fall in love all the time. Humans are attracted to humans.
Yeah.
We believe that God wants to make the match, that his best way that he wants to match people himself. And we've found out, excuse me, through 7 years now, for us, we got married late in life, but for 7 years, I'm just going to say it, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy because when God does it, he prepares people, then he matches people. So it's not just like he throws something on the wall to see what sticks. I mean, he knows what he's doing. And so our desire is for people to have that match. But the first desire is that they get to know the God that makes that match. That's the most important part because he's the prize. It's not the wife or the husband. He's the prize. The wife or the husband is just, as Kim puts it, the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, right.
It's a gift. It's a gift. We're still imperfect people. We still make mistakes. We still screw up. But so we're not the center of each other's world. Christ is always the center. And, as he was in singleness, he remains the center. But now as we relate together, it's easy. It's right. It's good. That's what he wants to do for others. So we want others to have that. We want others to know the God that does that for them first and foremost.
Yeah. And I think you're a great representation of the same thing, Bob, in that our singleness had great quality to it. We understood when Paul said that that it was better to be single because of the undistracted devotion that you get to spend on Christ and Christ alone. And there just is no greater companion for any human on the earth than Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And so you and I had talked at a sanctuary one day, and I said, our story is so unconventional because it's like the iceberg with all of the ice underneath the water. And then there's just a peak of the ice above the water. And that's how our story reads. There's this quality of relationship with Christ that came before the marriage, and the transformation and the healing that happens in those places is so beneficial to the marriage, which my devotional actually addresses that. It's a devotion a week, and each chapter opens with my intimate relationship with Jesus, and then it closes with how that has benefited my marriage. So I think that's one thing that stands apart. Another thing is that when God speaks, faith is seated in your heart. So when difficulties do come in the marriage, I don't have to wonder if I married the wrong person. I only have to look back at the Lord and what he said and what he revealed about that person.
Yes.
Yes. I'm with the right person, that will never change. And I think that's a big difference too.
Such a great point. Yes. And would you also say that becoming good friends with each other is a pretty important thing?
Oh,
Because
yes.
I'm surprised at when you ask a lot of couples who's your best friend, they don't name each other. Not a good sign. Yeah. Yeah.
And you think about just in general, you think about a friend, you think about a best friend, and it's probably the most uninhibited relationship that you have, because you're not concerned about how you will look, how you're being received, if you're enough. You're just friends. I think it's the best relationship to encounter, and then wait for the revelation of God. What's his plan for that friendship? So we're strong components for go make as many friends as you want and go deep with your friends and wait for God to bring a revelation about who he has for you through those friendships.
That's awesome. So I remember a line from a movie that was in, I think, the late 70s, early 80s, where, and it was kind of made fun of, where the woman looks at the man and says, "You complete me."
Mm.
And everybody kind of made fun of that. And then lots of kids used that line in kind of an adverse way and made fun of it. But it is the foundation for marriage. You don't marry someone exactly like you. You marry someone who does complete you.
Mm-hmm. We know that that our experience was that Christ completes us.
Yes.
We complete each other's purpose.
Yes.
So,
Good.
yeah, when Gary and I came together, we were both ministering to people to fall in love with Jesus before they fell in love with the one God had for them. So we already were working in our purpose. And so coming together full of Jesus, I believe what was completed was our purpose when we came together.
That is so cool. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've had some time to interact with other folks and certainly interact with other people that are going through some of the trials and tribulations of relationships as well. And folks, by the way, if you have some comments or questions, please write them down and we'll share them also. But the one constant that I hear you saying is that your relationship with each other is based on your collective relationship with Jesus Christ. Really important. Jonas has a question. Are your books available as ebooks? And if not, question for Bob, can you bring some to Denmark in March?
Yeah, you can actually go to Amazon.com. If you want to go to GodOfTheRomantic.com, all the books will be, they're there on our website. And the links will take you to Amazon. And yes, you will find an ebook for each book that we have available, except for the journals. I noticed that John put up pictures of our journals. Those are not available by ebook, but the actual content books of our stories and teachings are available on ebook.
And by the way, let's have you guys sign a few of these, and
sure,
let's make them available for sale in the Sanctuary store as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that'd be great.
Great for people to go there and to get the story. But yeah, that would be awesome. And so we've got a few minutes left here, and I wonder if you would just take a little bit of time and encourage the folks that are watching. We have some people that may say, you know, I'm married, I've been married for a while, and that spark seems to be gone in my marriage, or we're just going through so many difficulties, or we may even have people that say, you know, we've been considering divorce because this just doesn't seem to be working. What's your best advice to people that are in that situation?
If they're believers, go to the source. Go back to Christ, because Christ's love never ends for that person, and tap into that. And when you do that, his love will flow through you for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, 100%. The idea of the person that you are married to is so loved by God that he sent his son to die for him. So there is quality and value to that person that you're married to. that it is worth it to go before Jesus, ask him, what are your thoughts towards my husband or my wife? How can I join you in your love for them? Show me how to do that. And a lot of times that takes us through an exercise of forgiveness. And that's the hard thing to do, but it's incredibly worth it to encounter when you remember how much you have been forgiven. When you go to that place of how much you personally have been forgiven, the ability to release forgiveness to that person increases. So I'd encourage that as well.
I love that. Yeah, because that's the bottom line. We have been forgiven so that we can forgive others.
Yes.
That is the bottom line. And there are always those times, as I said to Glenn and Cherie, there is wedded bliss and wedded blisters. We have both. Everybody goes through the same. Yeah. Tina wants to know, what about your wedding? Can you describe your wedding?
Well, Tina's my sister.
Hey,
So-
Tina.
So she lives in South Carolina, and she actually drove up to Illinois to attend our wedding. So our wedding was a fairy tale. It was Kim's idea, and I got to add to her fairy tale. So we had Tim Burton-like trees on the stage. We had a big pocket watch that we still hang in our kitchen today. And we had
Wonderland.
yeah, it was Wonderland. We played a 12-minute video that gave a brief story of our history.
Yeah.
We had lanterns on the floor. I wore a big top hat and a purple jacket.
Yeah.
There's the trees. There's the clock. So
So cool.
the wedding. I remember when I was single, thinking that here I am teaching this stuff about God ordained marriages and stuff, and I knew that when I got married, whenever that was, that I would want to use the wedding as an evangelistic experience, that others could watch this and see this and know that, hey, this can happen for you too. God is not he's not stingy. He will be willing to do this for anyone who would trust him to do so. So we wanted to create an experience that would be etched in people's mind, and hopefully I had one friend, and she said, I just went to the coolest wedding that I've ever been to in my life and stuff. And so we succeeded, at least with her.
Mhm.
So, and she's single. So that was the goal, but it was very unique. So it was more like a play. It really was more like a play than it was a traditional wedding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love that. And having done hundreds of weddings, I always look forward to those that's a little unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys, we have run out of time. I have totally enjoyed this, and we'll do this again.
Yeah.
It's great for people to know more about you, and of course your story as it unfolds. You're
Yeah.
not done yet.
We're not done yet. No.
We'll talk about and the relationship part of it, all of that. There's some places you can go to learn more. godoftheromance.com, and on Facebook, facebook.com/God of the Romance Presentations.
Bob, it's actually God of the Romantic.
I'm sorry. God of the Romantic Presentations. And folks, you can see that on your screen right now. Visit the website, though, godoftheromantic.com. So, Gary, Kim, thank you. Appreciate you today.
Yeah.
I will see you on Sunday. It's so good to have you here.
We appreciate our time with you guys. A lot of great friendships are building. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we have loved having you part of Sanctuary, and thank you for letting people get to know you a little more. We'll do this in front of Sanctuary as you do, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. That would be great. Well,
Great.
folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.